Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Travis Told You, August 23rd, 2025. My goodness, we are just 8 days away from Halloween, the greatest day of the year. That's great. Lots of good stuff happening in GeekVerse. We're a couple weeks away from Extra Life, which is fantastic, and yeah, it's going to be a good show today. We got lots to talk about. Gonna do some quick fires, lots of stuff on the feeds. I hope everyone is doing well. After 9 is tomorrow. It is at least myself and Dylan. Kirkland's on his way to Japan currently. Taylor's moving, so it's gonna be us holding it down, and we're gonna talk about some top 10 scary movies all the time because there was like a poll that came out or a study, very controversial in the Discord, so we will be talking about it. But yeah, we're talking about some DCU, just a bunch of updates from James Gunn. We're talking about, is Andy Muschietti still directing Batman? That's kind of back and forth. It's not really back and forth, but with the fandom it is, right? The up and down stuff, so we'll talk about that. We'll quickly talk about David Fincher, not directing a Star Wars movie, talk about WB sales, all this good stuff. And there is a little topic there at the end. Let me get rid of these banners and everything. There is a little topic there. Clear the throat there, because this is an important one at the end. But I'm going to start it off the top. Get out of the way so I know how much time is left. We got an hour. So as usual, if you're a Patreon, I'll answer your comment. If not, send a super chat or join Patreon. Very much appreciate it. You get a bunch of stuff up there. There's, I think now, hundreds of exclusive episodes. Bike Riders retrospective, Running Man retrospectives up there. We got tons of stuff coming in 2026. God, we're only in 2026. That's nuts. So that will be happening. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I guess let me tell people that I'm doing this so the people know, because we're gonna start up top. Very, very important. But so actually, I don't want to start yet, just in case. So I'm clear and center and get everything going on. But yeah, check out Genevieve and Alley. Me and Taylor just reviewed that. What else? We got side quests as usual. We got it chapter, not it. Welcome to Derry starting. So we got that going on. There's almost too much to mention there. So let's see here. But what else is going on? Yeah, I'm on side quest this week with Dylan. That'd be good because I have not been on there in a minute now. Still not finished Don Con. I'm sorry, Dylan. But at the bottom says Travis Snell addresses his enemies, and we're gonna get into that, right? Last news, guys. Only people, I guess, because we haven't released it publicly, but we did our in-person cast. Me, Kirkland, Taylor, hell of a time. 2.5 hours talking about life, afterlife, a bunch of stuff that we'll be releasing on the feed this weekend for public, but it is ad-free on Patreon right now. And some people know about this, some people don't. I had addressed a situation, right? Because I got about a couple DMs and messages about a certain podcaster, maybe saying some things about me. I didn't know what the deal was between me and myself. And I said, hey, I'm going to address it at some point. And then I did. But then I chose to take the high road. I've talked about this before when I came back. Try to take the high road nowadays with Travis Snell. Don't just address it head on. See what happens. I said I would discover and talk about it in DMs, which some people, it wasn't good enough for. There was some person that messaged me like, oh, you barely addressed it, but Marvel Alliance addressed it, tipping the hat of who this person is. And I go, you know what? I want to be a bigger person, not go publicly about some issues, because who knows? This is a misunderstanding or whatnot, because this is a good long-term friend, and you never know. But the man in question is Mr. Christopher Balga himself, Chris Balga. So a couple weeks ago, I co-hosted Marvel Alliance with David, my gimmick co-host person. And, at the top, made a little joke because Chris, he has a whole spiel. He has a bunch of things that he has to thank and shout out. And it's great because the show is a sponsor. There's lots of stuff going on GUA. They usually got shows almost every day of the week like us. So I get it, right? So I was making a little joke and just some jabs that I should be added in that, right? Because, founder of that show, 10 years of GeekVerse, 5 years of GUA, I should be added to that and just had a little fun, right? But then after the fact, people messaged me about the newest Marvel Alliance that had uploaded the weekend 2 weeks after with Chris and David back at it, and I listened to it. And Chris had made some shots, maybe just some fun poking the bear. I don't know. I would say some passive-aggressive comments, some comments that are felt like I said some shots and maybe lacking a little respect. I felt like mine was pretty jokey, or his felt a little more on the serious route, right? So that's something to me. I didn't know how to take that, right? And I thought about going on GeekVerse and just calling him out and trash talking. But Chris, one of my good friends, as I've said before, he's kind of the second in command there at GUA. He's been there for a long time. I go to him a lot of stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to figure it out in DMs and I'll talk to him. And he had said that he had DM'd me on that show, and I'm just busy, right? I've said this before. 3 jobs practically. Got the day job, got the podcasting, which is usually 4 to 5 times a week. We're back to filmmaking, which is the writing, the filming, tons of stuff's going on there, right? Got the 5 kids, twins are still babies, got time to spend with the lady, and then just try to sleep, go to the gym, all that stuff. So very, very busy person. Didn't get a chance to look at it, right? So I apologize on that front, and that's for me. But I thought, okay, we'll eventually just come together, talk about it via DMs, and it'll be squash, right? Because I'm sure maybe he was joking, maybe better actor than I thought, but then get a couple more messages, see a show, big fan of Dave Pena, the film junkie. Watch that. I see a comment on his show. I go, okay, that's weird from a fan. And then as Chris is signing off because that's what happens at Vodka Stream, right? You go on, and when you're tired, you got something to do, you're going to sign off, promote your stuff. And Dave luckily lets everyone go around the room and promote his stuff. So I was fine to handle this in DMs, but I'm going to just pull up a little video here now and just like of what happened during that stream, which, I don't know. We're going to talk about. I'm just going to show the clip first. Hopefully you can all hear it, and then we'll go from there. So here you go.
Yeah, thank you. So look forward to it. Y'all have a great weekend. Check out Marvel Alliance. We covered it, breaking out everything with New York Comic Con, and lots of exciting.
And be sure
stuff.
to give Chris all the thanks for all the hard work he does in Marvel Alliance.
Stop it.
Because without Chris, there would be no Marvel Alliance. Don't you all forget that, especially you, Travis.
Things are going on. I'm going to leave before I get in trouble.
Oh.
Let him come.
Oh, be careful what you wish for.
Aaron, dirty laundry, I would say there. That's enough hearing from Phil. Heard enough. Phil, go sit, play some fucking nerdy Pokemon game that's out for the 10th million time that they're doing the same thing, churning and turning over. You just, next time Chris does his entrance, or his outro, just sit down, be quiet, play your games. Go catch a Beluga, go catch a Gargantuan, go catch a Rocky McPhee, whatever the fuck Pokemons are. It's 2025. Pokemon, I get in the 90s, big thing, still playing it. What's going on, sir? And that's one thing, I'm sure, Phil, when you play those video games that you listen to Marvel Alliance, maybe other GOA shows, right? But Marvel Alliance, you've been on there before. Chris brought you on, not me, but you've been on there before. And I'm sure when you listen to that and you enjoy that episode, you think, oh man, thanks Chris and David and formerly Brent for doing all this stuff. But for me, you're enjoying that because of the work that I do. You're enjoying that because when Chris and David record an episode and they get to go sit down or go to sleep and go whatever, I'm up at 12, 1 a.m., sometimes 2, because I got all the GeekVerse stuff I got to fucking do too. I got to put the ad times, I got to get the thumbnail, got to set up the stream, all that type of stuff. I got to do everything to get that show out there for the patrons, for the listeners the next day, for people going live. I have to, Chris will remind me, which luckily, hey, stream's not set up, but guess what? Who's reminding is me to set the stream up. I do all that, and he deserves all the credit. Chris deserves lots of credit. Maybe you could say most, but all the credit? I don't know about that, because who started the podcast network? It was Greg's idea, and I give Greg a lot of credit, but I was the person that had the foundation and the actual tools to do that. I had the tools to give them monetization and be paid. Day one, we're for GeekVerse. We had to work over 5 years. So I created the network. I created Marvel Alliance. I brought on Chris as the co-host, was on Super Civil Servants with Greg. Like the guy, I thought this guy's lots of talent. We had good chemistry. I brought him on. And people, they're going to talk about my ego and all this type of stuff. There's so much stuff you don't even know about everything that's transpired, how much I had to pour in to get that network run and going and smoothly. And now I'm a lot busier. So luckily everything's set. They do their good job. But even all that work, and even to this day, Chris said, hey, I can do this show, but I can't upload. And of course, he's got a family job. I get that. But for me, to this day, and way in the back, and Chris can attest to this, I didn't get paid a single dime for my Marvel Alliance hosting or edit, and that's fine, because I'm a nice guy. I want people to have the show. I like Chris. I like Brent. I like David. I want the code. I have no issue. But people want to talk like I still do nothing. I do a lot. All those times, because GeekVerse, of course, gets a cut from GUA. We're produced of that network. But when I hosted, Chris can attest this, I didn't take a single dime. And not because he wanted to hold it. Again, good guy said, oh, no, you should. I said, no, that's fine. GeekVerse already gets a cut. Don't feel good about that. But it's not just all. So it's a lot of me. So Phil and everyone else, don't question that. And especially don't forget it. And especially Mr. Chris Balga, who I will talk to. I do have another surprise for you coming up. You want to do this stuff where maybe you talk to some people behind my back or some listeners coming to chime in or there's happening, which, again, dirty laundry on the network. You're on Dave's show saying, oh, I'm a little trouble, don't know things going on. You don't got to say any of that. I didn't say anything like that with names before, but now there's a line drawn. But like I said, don't question it. Don't forget it, especially you, Mr. Balga. I hope that you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. As I've said before, fucking with the wrong one, we don't want to do this. But like I said, next little day, weekend, might got a little surprise for you. And you won't see it coming, I don't think. I think you're going to be quite surprised when this comes to you. So, just a little fun. But I just had to throw that out there because it's kind of got way out of control. So, hey, us producers are important too. Of course, no, everyone's important there. I'm just saying when someone said Chris deserved all the credit, Family Clay, there's a lot to go in there, and I've just a lot of chiming in and people that don't know anything. So just saying, play your Pokemon, host your Marvel Alliance, be a good guy. Let's see. Okay, so Hunter Iggy, I'll talk about the James Gunn thing after because we're going to talk about the DCU stuff now with Andy and everything. So we're going to get in that. So I apologize for the beginning there, but I just had to address some things because you get enough DMs, enough bothering. It's okay. Kind of want this thing to go away. That's it. But let's have some fun. We got 50 minutes. Let's go. Andy Muschietti and his producer is it Barbara Muschietti, which I learned during The Flash was his sister and not his wife. I think for half of Geekverse, I said, oh, him and his wife, because I was used to Zach and Debbie or Chris and his wife, right? But they talked about, someone asked like, oh, you still working on that? And like the sister was like, yeah, that's still the plan. It's still much in, I can't remember the exact quote. Maybe I did share it to myself, but because I didn't share the full quote because it wasn't much I had to worry about there. But he did say we can talk about that in a couple months. And they said, I've said too much already. So as of right now, which one thing I would like people to ask is with Gunn, there's just a few things with Andy Muschietti. He always talks about like, Matt Reeves or the Batman or Brave the Bold and how it's changed, which we'll get into as well. But I feel like maybe he's not allowed. I feel like just no one's ever outright asked him, hey, is Andy Muschietti directing Batman? Now he said that, right? So, and I've said this before with Robert Pattinson, with all this stuff. Granted, there's many things that Gunn says that I feel like is a twisting of the truth, or just maybe things change, and that happens, right? So that's okay. But I'm trying to, for this big stuff, take him at his word, where it goes, okay, Robert Pattinson separate, that's great. Andy, he said that years ago, that he said that around Flash time, that Andy's directing it, great. He hasn't said anything otherwise, but just been quiet. And especially when he was doing press for Superman, there was lots of talk about Matt Reeves and not Andy Muschietti, right? For me, on this front where Andy says, hey, in a couple months, which that's interesting, right? Because what could that mean in a couple months? Could that mean Batman's appearing on a different project and they're casting that? Could that just mean they're going to sit down? Because at the same time, you could easily get, because they've said it, which we're going to be reviewing, Welcome to Dare is going to go 3 seasons. In a couple months, it could be a hit. And then they go, oh, I'm just so busy working on this project. We want to do 2 more seasons. I'm going to pass off the Batman to someone else. And I can't wait to work with James Gunn in the future, right? Or it's just that it'll be done press and the show will be out and then kind of focus on that, right? Because maybe Andy's not going to show run every season of the It show, right? So I don't know where they're going to go with this. As right now, I'm just going to take it as that he is, because he's saying this. Obviously, wouldn't really matter. We had Ben Affleck on a Comic-Con saying, like, I'd be an ape on the ground for Matt Reeves, right? You can't believe anything. Like we just talked about in the check out our Cantina conversations, me and Taylor, when we talked about the canceled Ben Solo film. Hollywood is just a constant game. Do I think I still am going to... I was very much no, and like, do these comments change anything? And at first I think I was going to say, oh yeah, I think he is. But for me, I'm still going to lean... I'm going to lean to no right now. Now, the thing about Hollywood, it is a what have you done for me lately, right? And with The Flash, which I enjoyed, I liked The Flash. I was wrong about The Flash, where I thought a lot more people were going to enjoy The Flash. I remember watching it, and the weekend after, like even our listeners talking to them, and a variation to loved it, thought it was all right, to hated it. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't see that. I thought this would be a crowd pleaser, right? Same way with Superman. I said, I was right on the money there, where I said, okay, I think the mainstream's going to really like this, but I think it's going to be divisive with some people. And it was. I don't think, I've said before, it's not divisive like BVS or Last Jedi, but I've met way more people than I thought that weren't going to like it. Whether it's parents, whether it's Emily, and a lot of people just saying, oh, maybe a bit too goofy and stuff. But I thought, oh, wow, this is not. I did see that, but I mean, like when on the lead up to Superman, I did not think we were going to get that until I saw it. Okay, I can see how multiple people might feel about this, right? But with The Flash, I was set on that. And I think I said on that review, I was happy with Andy doing The Flash because obviously I like his It stuff. And I liked his Batman stuff in The Flash. And for me, you can never find me saying anywhere that I don't think Andy should direct the Batman. I just was in question of The Flash was a double where it came out to a mixed reception critically and fans, and then it bombed to the box office, right? It's a box office failure. So that's the thing of, okay, and I remember they announced it that weekend of Andy was doing Flash, and I was like, oh, that's very quick, and they're very confident, I guess, right? But we've seen a countless amount of times where, Thomas Stars, but countless amount of times where someone's announced for something and a project comes out and it doesn't do well, or something happens, they go, we're going to go a different way, schedule differences, creative differences, all that jazz, right? So that's where I was, where I'm still fine with Andy doing this. I've said before, as long as Matt Reeves finishes his trilogy, which I'm not saying it has to hold up a gunpoint, but like if he wants to do that and they let him, I don't really care who they get as I do care, of course. Batman's my favorite character. If they get like you Bull, I'll be like, man, what's James Gunn smoking over there, right? But I mean, I care to a lesser degree of, okay, I'm getting my Matt Reeves grounded detective tale. Cool, get Andy. It's not the be all end all. Obviously, if the Batman goes away and that's not a thing, that becomes a bit more critical for who's Batman, who's directing it. But I thought Andy was a solid to good choice. Probably even better than that. I'd say a good choice. I love It Chapter 1. I know It Chapter 2, and I think for some reasons gets maligned a little bit. I don't dislike it nearly to them. I dislike things about it, but I don't dislike it as a bunch of other people. Like on Letterboxd, I give that thing a 4 out of 5, And Flash, I enjoyed. I get people's critiques. I think some are valid. I think some are for different reasons or they have different motivations behind it. But most of the criticisms I get are valid. It's just mileage may vary for people, right? As far as your cons and what you like and don't like. So, and we'll see what happens with the TV show. I've never seen the Mama movie with Chastain and Nicholas Krogalask, however you say his name from Game of Thrones, but I'm fine with him as a director. It's going to be curious as I just feel like Gunn never talked about him that much, and I feel like people don't ask about him that much. But as right now, he says he's doing it, and maybe that's the idea, right? Where this show's going to come out. It's going to, let's say it does good numbers wise, even though I still think they should have released it a little earlier in the Halloween season. Obviously they released episode 1 this week, the week of Halloween, but it's still just kind of feel you missed the boat on some stuff, but that's okay. I think reception has been, I don't know. I feel like the people that are loving it are absolutely loving it. So that's good. But then it's still just like a 79 on Rotten Tomatoes, right? And that's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. People would kill for that, right? I'm just saying as far as I feel like I saw the reviews being much higher, but then the actual score didn't match that, right? I feel like a lot of time you'll see the reactions and then the score comes out. It's like a 90, a high 80. And you're like, okay, that tracks. Where this was like a high 70. Okay, I thought people were talking more about this, but I'm assuming I'm going to like the majority of it. So for me, that could be the case, right? Comes out, viewership, ratings, all this stuff, reviews, it's all going well, right? It's all happening. And then that's the perfect time to go, hey, you loved this show that this guy did? He's doing Batman X, Y, and Z. We'll have to see. I think I'm playing it safe and just saying, I don't think, I suppose we'll talk about that. I can't talk about that on air, but I'm glad. Yeah, I don't want to say anything more. I just don't know. I've always said too and I think we don't know this as well. When James Gunn is like, I'm working on the script with the writer, they wouldn't say who it was. I was in the camp, and I've never thought about it, where he has written some of his stuff, but not all stuff, right? So some people took that as like, oh, that's it. Gunn's working on this with somebody, and even Andy was like, yeah, I'll see the script and we'll kind of go from there, right? And same thing. It's tough. It's the same thing where Gunn, he'll do that thing where, hey, Batman situation's completely handled, nothing's going on, and then he's like, well, lots is up in the air, and we're gonna find out and see, right? So it's like, kind of, why does he say these things? In the sense of Andy in one interview saying, well, in a couple months we're gonna let you know, and then Gunn, which we'll get into the DCU part, he just said that there's gone through big changes, like it's changed a lot since the Brave and Bold, which I see a lot of Damian Wayne fans pretty worried because it's like, okay, is that even happening? And I don't even know if that's happening anymore. And that's the thing where, oh, you're being nice and quiet in here. Emily doesn't like when I call her out when she's in the room. That's the thing where, what are those big changes? And could that be the same thing what Andy's talking about, right? They're nailing down the script, but at the same time, that's also a good scapegoat of, hey, when I'm Andy Muschietti, I signed on to do Brave and Bold, this pitch with Damian Wayne, this exact version of the Batman movie, and now it's changed. That's a perfect way to say whether it's genuine or not that he's out, right? And I don't know. So right now I'm still just leaning towards, I don't think he's going to direct. This movie is still at least 3 years away, right? Because The Batman and Man of Tomorrow will come out in 2027. So it's not coming out that year. Gunn has said there has to be some separation between the two. I think it should be a year and a half at least, but I guess 1 year you get away with. But yeah, let's see, 2028. So it'd go in production maybe late 26, sometimes 27. And again, that depends. What if Annie's doing the It series, right? So for me, I'm still leaning towards no. Because I still, people would probably think I'm crazy saying this, I still think there's a chance that Gunn could end up directing it. He's just, I feel like a lot lately talked about how much he loves Batman, and he won't name that secret screenwriter. I think he said it's not him, but it's like, he's also said a lot of other stuff too, right? And it could have not been him, and now it is him, right? So I really don't know. So we'll see. Let's pull up some of these updates. He did a bunch of interviews. I don't really know why or what I'm missing why he did these, because we had the Peacemaker finale. I don't know if it's to promote that still. I feel like those would have been earlier. We don't have Lanterns until March, so nothing's going on there. But I will pull up, he did a bunch of like YouTube interviews and stuff, and I get it. I get people want him on the show, but one of the things I think I don't know, feel cringy seeing is they'll tweet at James Gunn and it'll be like a thumbnail of their Superman review, and it's like best Superman ever, and it'll be like, I really loved your Superman movie, and I'd love you to come on. It's like, that's great, and I hope it happens for you. I just feel like that's like I don't want that I don't need the person to hate Superman that's interviewing him, but I just feel like we get very lowball questions when it's, why why did he fly like that in this scene, But let's say something. Yeah, this is what I talked about. So here's just a list of big stuff he said over the past little bit. A lot has changed with Brave and Bold's story since announced. So same thing. That could mean so much. If this is a situation where, and I would give him so much credit, right? If let's say years ago when Matt Reeves, because we heard the Robin rumors again recently, right? And we had heard, I think I checked on the podcast like 2 years ago, like before James Gunn was the fucking DC studio president. I'm pretty sure we heard these rumors that Robin was in a version of the script, right? And let's say they wanted to do that. And the idea was, well, that is Dick Grayson. It's an adoptive orphan. And this is his son who's League of Assassins and all this stuff, and tied to Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul. That's different enough, right? Maybe there's a time where they go, if we want this Batman movie out soon, should we have two Robins? And I would, and I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm not saying you should bend the knee. No, I would just caution both guys, Reeves and Gunn, if you guys are putting out two Batman movies, like having Robin in them both. I know one is his son, but that's still, I'm not going to say confusing, and that's where I'll push back too. It's just not even confusing, because I agree with Gunn to that statement. Sometimes it's us that makes a bigger deal about that stuff, right? They might just look at it and go, this one has a Robin, this one has a Robin. That feels like the same thing. I don't need to see that. I just saw one with the Robin. It's not different enough, right? Especially now, I feel like Gunn has kind of walked back the whole Batman's going to be older. He never did say that, but I think he kind of insinuated that, where now he's kind of put out there that he could be in his early 30s, which again, I've said this before. If fucking Damian Wayne, if it is Damian, if he's 10 years old, you could have Bruce at 19 knock up Talia. It could be early days of him being Batman, or early days of him training or meeting race, whatever, right? Like, you could still have Batman be in his 30s and have a 10-year-old kid. And that's almost better, because he's like, not better, because I still want the Dick Grayson and everything like that, but it's like, that's the point where it's like, man, it's not a seasoned Batman getting a son. It's a non-seasoned Batman and a guy that's probably has like lacking some life experience, right? Because even myself, like, you know, I guess I'm 32 and a bunch of kids, but that's different because I'm not crime fighting, you know? One of my goals was to have a big family and kids that I have time to spend with them. Bruce doesn't have time to spend in let's go see a movie. Well, he doesn't want to do that probably because, you know, sometimes parents can get shot, all that stuff, but like doesn't have time to like just go roast marshmallows with Dick Grayson, right? They're doing something completely different. But that could mean anything. That statement of it's changed a lot since the announcement. Maybe Robin's not in it. Maybe Batman's a lot younger. Maybe it's a different Robin, which would be fucking weird as well too. Because if Robin is in Matt Reeves' script, what happens there? What do I want to see with it? I really don't know. My big thing is that's where, I would prefer Andy to direct than Gunn. I don't really want that. I don't want Gunn. I'm kind of fine with the story by credit, but I don't want Gunn to be directing it. I personally, would want Dick Grayson in the DCU first and to see that go up, because the way I would have it is I would rather Matt Reeves' films be just Batman, and in this one, Bat Family, Dick Grayson, and you build up to all that stuff, because I know you could do it in flashback, but imagine for the general audience that doesn't know what happens to Jason Todd, and what a way to make that Joker such a piece of shit, you know, like if you were to build up to that. Again, though, that's years of stuff, even in these interviews, which he was saying in a joking manner, but Gunn's like, oh, I have plans beyond Man of Tomorrow if I can make it to that, right? That could mean anything, box office, etc., his contract, but I think he can read the writing on the room, which we'll talk about. WB is now officially up for sale. His job is not secure. If I am the people taking over, I've talked about this before, I would keep James Gunn. I've talked about this, you know, Fanboy Clay's in the chat. I think that he is liked, you know, DCU a lot more than me. I haven't really been digging it, but because it's a fucking Christ, that means it's time for a water break right there. Because it is a coherent vision for the fifth time, and people enjoy it, and it's seeming somewhat successful. Superman, I think, is a success at the box office. Peacemaker, you can argue because streaming ratings are all tough. People talk about how it didn't make certain charts. To me, that's up to the studio, because we've seen studios be like, this show was the number watch of the year, number one, blah, blah, blah. And there's no season 2. There's no this. It doesn't mean anything really, right? It's how much does it cost, and what does the studio deem a success for the numbers they want to actually get? Not the data we see, because that's all messed up. Same thing of like, oh, it's, again, people want it not Peacemaker, but if you watch it at home, even a family show. If I watched it last night, Tubi, me and my family watched Pumpkinhead, right? That's the R.L. Stine, like Goosebumps, the Halloween one. That was 7 of us watching that. But on a Nielsen rating, I'm just going to count as 1, right? So it's not a perfect math. That to me is like, with the streaming stuff, we can't really know what the deal is with that, right? But to me, I would say keep it going. And that's the thing where he knows, and that's where anybody has to prepare themselves. We'll talk about that again in a second, but who knows? There's now all these companies involved. They could love what Gunn's doing. They could think, hey, we like it, but we're going to give you a year to see if it could. Because what if they look at Superman? There is, I guarantee you, some exec out there that is looking at the Superman box office, like, wow, that's disappointing. The same way, the same way they did that with Man of Steel and BVS. Now, granted, am I in the camp that I think it's not embarrassing, but do I think it's underwhelming that BVS didn't make $1 billion? Sure. Does that mean it was not successful? No. That's something now, today, they'd kill for a nearly $900 million movie, right? It just, the context of the MCU is killing it, putting out billion, close to $2 billion, right? So at that time, they looked at Man of Steel and BVS and went, these are disappointments, shake up, change this. So same thing. Whoever gets it, Amazon, Apple, WB, hopefully they're not gonna. We know they're selling Netflix, whatever. I would hope they look at this and go, hey, it's doing this. Let's keep with it, right? Because I think if you shake it up again, to me, if you shake up WB, and I guess we're kind of talking about this at the same time, so we're just throw the topic in one. If you shake it up and let's say you kill Gunn and want to reboot, there's 2 things. You have to go with this universe and change the showrunner, but Cavill's, or not, sorry, that's a Freudian slip. Core and Sweat's staying. This person's staying. I don't think the general audience right now would be accepting of a reboot. Not because, like, we love the Superman. Just because I think they'd be, oh, that's tiring. I think it's different if, they're doing a Superman where he drop down in Russia, if they know, oh, this is something different from that one, okay. But if it's a welcome to your new DC universe, I think people will be over it, because I think people already with connected universes are stingy on what they want to jump on and jump off on, right? Or just jump on. I think people are jumping off a lot of stuff because it's time, it's money. There's so much content. There's so much stuff. When I look at the things I have to watch, it's like me and Emily have this backlog where it's like, we're good. I don't want the strikes to happen because we need content for the show, but like the strikes would happen for 2 years and we still would be behind on content, right? So that's the thing where I don't think you could reboot it. And you can't reboot it. You just go with this universe and change it a little bit, right? Like what they're trying to do with the Snyder stuff. And we saw how with Shazam and Black Adam, that could get messy, right? Or you just do solo superhero films, nothing connected. Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. I think that's the way to go. I don't think you can reboot again. There's too much going on there. And before we get to the rest of the stuff, let me just pull up the tab of the people. Because it's pretty much like everyone. Because at first it was, okay, a couple weeks ago, it was just Paramount, like WB might sell and Paramount's the one, right? And then it was, well, Paramount and Netflix. And now people have been like, oh, I've talked about this with other people, but when I can't remember his name, but the Netflix co-president or whatnot said, yeah, we have little interest in buying them. That means shit. You think this, like, so I agree with, or I believe with a couple weeks ago when they asked David Ellison, like, what about WB? And just said, oh, well, there's lots of companies out there that could really help us and it would be a great fit, but no comment on WB. This could be literally fucking with people in the press. Maybe that's a genuine, like, oh, I know it's out there. We actually have no interest in WB. Maybe that's real, but that could also be a tactic to undermine other people and put out there. You can't believe anything that's being said right now. Paramount really wants it. Apparently, it came out this morning that WB has turned them down 3 times. 3 times. This last offer, they offered Dave Zaslav to be a co-CEO in this purchase. And it's all over the map, right? So that's the thing of like, okay, what is that going to mean? Does that mean that they, like, eventually David and WB are just deny, so you just get up to, because I think the rumor is they kind of want like $30 per share. Is that the plan where it's just gonna, or is that the scenario where they just do that till they can kind of overprice them to what they want and they're not gonna budge? Or is it gonna get to the part where Paramount's like, fuck it, I don't want to do this, like this is enough, we've offered you this and this, you have it, we'll go get something else, right? And then something swoops in. But all the ones, because I think it was all of them but Disney, right? Did I not share? I think I shared it in the G-Way, so I got to pull up the G-Way here, the chat, which, Chris is at work, so he probably hasn't seen anything I said. I'm sure it might get a little hot in there, but you know what? I'm warm-blooded. I'm ready for the heat any day of the week. Companies reportedly interested in buying Warner Brothers assets: Apple, Amazon, Netflix, NBC, Universal, and Paramount, right? So we talked about Paramount. We talked about Netflix, and Netflix, I don't want to rank them. And then Universal, I feel like that's what everyone's kind of wanting. There was kind of a report today that, we're going to get a little political here. Obviously, a lot of these things in the past would not have been able to happen because they talk about, God, why am I'm forgetting the term, but it's something where they don't want a monopoly. They don't want all the big companies just to own other big companies, so we don't end up with just 2 to 3 big companies, which we're kind of. But the idea is, well, with Paramount, they could buy it because they could easily get past certain restrictions, regulations, because David Ellison and people in his camp are friends with Trump, and that's easy, good to go, right? That's through Universal that could be a hiccup because NBC and other news outlets on there and how they cover Trump, whatever you think about it, fuck that guy. Whatever you think about it. They might block it because they go, you trash me all the time, I'm not going to let you have this company, right? Or maybe they don't care. I don't know, but that's some people have put out there as like industry insiders been like, we've heard that could be a holdup for them, right? And then you got Amazon, Netflix. Amazon does some great stuff. And here's the thing. I've said this before. I'll say this again. I didn't want this to happen. When the Paramount thing got turned down, I thought maybe there is some hope that WB is going to go, you know what? We had a great year. We're rolling. Let's play this out because maybe we could become bigger than we thought and we won't need these people, or we could become bigger. They're already bigger than a Paramount on the film side, right? But like maybe we can all those 40 plus openings. They have the top box office here. Maybe we can just turn it around. So I thought maybe there's a chance. If you asked me anything I sell, I would have said yes, but I thought maybe there is. No, on Monday or Tuesday, Zaslav put a statement. Yeah, we're up for sale, and we, 2026, mid 2026. That's the goal, right? Could be before that. So I don't want any of this. I don't want, in the sense that when I say I want Apple to get them, do I want Apple, that's already a fucking billion trillion corporation that has all this stuff, to get this? And then, when I go to some park with a DC ride, you got to have an Apple app to do this or what no, I don't. I don't want any of this. Excuse me. I don't want any of this, but it's happening, right? So it has to be the lesser of two evils, the pick the devil, and that's the one I want because the quality's there. And I think that I was talking about this with the GA people and other people. It's just Apple doesn't have big IP yet. And to the aforementioned Chris Balga's point, when we were talking about this before, a lot of this stuff went down. They don't have their movie track record is very iffy, right? It's the shows right now where it's not many people watch all the shows, but it's high quality stuff, And the movies are so. Obviously, they had a big hit with F1 earlier this year. I think that if they had a hit with this, if they had a lot of these IP, obviously they would have to change focus because you're not going to just do a Batman show, Superman show. With Amazon, I think it's already because they got Bond, they got other stuff, so I don't need them to have everything. And also, I just don't know. I need to see what happens with Bond. I know they have other franchises and IP that they're doing. They've done great stuff with Invincible and The Boys and other stuff, right? Stuff I don't watch. But for me, Bond is a really big test. I need to see how they do that. Because if that's iffy, then I go, do I want them with the DC characters? But if I was ranking this, I would go Apple. Well, no, I would go Universal because I'd like that'd be a big shot in the arm for Universal, and we know they're gonna keep theatrical. Apple is doing theatrical movies, but they're not. They could just use, obviously, they get WB and use it as a distributor now, right? They wouldn't even have to pay anything. Now, the old deal, when it's like, hey, you want F1? We'll make a deal. It's just like, well, just send that to the WB wing, right? They'll do that. So for me, though, I'm still going to go NBC Universal, which not a promise, not a guarantee they're going to put out content. None of these are, right? So NBC Universal, Apple, Amazon, Paramount, Netflix. That would be the way. I still think Paramount will get it. And to all this stuff, that's why Gunn made the joke of who knows where I'll be, because we don't know what any of these people. These are now 5 different big organizations other than Disney, which to me makes sense. I just didn't. They got Marvel, they got Star Wars, which they should sell. They got other stuff. Getting all the WB stuff, I just don't think they see the needs. We already have those, like Star Wars to Harry Potter, kind of similar, right? In the sense of younger fan. Well, you used to hope so, but I used to be a big fantasy sci-fi one, right? With DC, they got Marvel, and I don't think they want to. Sure, I don't always you can do Marvel and DC, but I still think you could do Marvel and DC down the line with partnering with a company the same way they do with Sony, right? So yeah, we don't know. Superman Mike says it just sucks to think the HBO brand could just die after they sell. Yeah, it's an iconic thing. To me, it shouldn't. It should stay a channel and they should keep it going. It should be kind of similar to what 20th Century has been. Also, that used to be 20th Fox Century. But yeah, I hope it doesn't go away. Why would you get away with that? Iconic. There's not many brands that have that, right? And Hunter, yeah, I'm going to get to that right now because we just transitioned over to this conversation here. Gunn says in the DCU he goes beyond Man Tomorrow and want to direct more DC after Man Tomorrow. Response to the Snyder cult that they are not interested in and Netflix response to the Snyder cult that they are not interested in WB. I already talked about that. So if you go back, Hunter, I talked about all that stuff. I'm sure Gunn wants to direct. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens. And I can't believe Netflix at all because they didn't say I don't think it was a Snyder cult person they were asked, right? I think they were asked in an interview, something official. Hey, are you buying WB? I don't think a Snyder cult guy tweeted at some big president for Netflix. I don't know. If I'm wrong, then what's this guy doing? That's kind of odd. But what I've said before, Hunter, if you missed it, I don't trust any of them. And not like I'm saying they're evil people, just they could be literally negotiating the press. Yeah, we don't really, it's like the pretending you don't like somebody, but you do. What if that's the idea? Because, oh yeah, they have no interest, then boom, they buy it, right? So we don't know anything. We don't know these buildings or these meetings. We're not in these buildings. We just have to kind of figure out after the fact, right? So We will see. Okay, so the other things he said, Darkseid will not be the big bad or the ruler of salvation. James is more interested in the concept of the government ran prison, which makes sense for a bunch of stuff. He even said that. He said Zach did him in a really cool way, and he's similar to Thanos. So for me, makes all sense to me. Like, you can get to Darkseid really at any point. If the universe is successful, and that's a big bet. And the same thing is if you were to do, because when people were saying Superman, and if you were saying, oh, World's Finest, that's going to be the sequel, right away you were going to get, well, that's just like Zack Snyder's DCEU, right? Like, it could have been Superman, World's Finest, and then Darkseid. You want to do something on your own, right? And I've heard Center might be the villain, which I like New Frontier. I usually don't like the concept of like a big island that's alive, but I like Justice League New Frontier. So I am a fan of that. So let's see. You think it's Brainiac or Vandal Savage? Yeah, I think it's, friend of the show, RJ, he'd put out there. And he sometimes hears some stuff that it's the Center. Look it up. That fits with certain things that have been other people have said and just hinted at. And it fits with James Gunn multiple times has posted Justice League New Frontier stuff, and that's the villain of that. So I think that's gonna be the first big bad. But I'm fine with Mongol, Brainiac, Vandal Savage. I think Brainiac's gonna end up being a Superman villain. I don't know if he'll ever be like the Thanos or Darkseid of a DCU chapter, but maybe he will be. He can work, right? He's a big threat. So we really don't know, but to me that makes sense. And that's one thing I do like. He's specifying, hey, the Salvation Run has a civil war between Joker and Lex. That's not happening. Darkseid's a big bad in there. Because the second that happened, because I've never read the Salvation Run. The second that happened, all over my timeline was like, he's doing Darkseid, he's doing New Gods, he's doing this. It's like, and I had to take the word. I'm like, okay, I've never read this. I guess he's a big part. I like that right away to stop expectations, because I think that's what he does have to do after that Peacemaker finale. A lot of people think he kind of screwed up with that, is say, hey, I know Darkseid's there for you comic nerds. He's not here right now. Darkseid you can get to at any point. So I like that. I like that both what he said, and also, yeah, we don't need to do Darkseid right now. There's tons of other DC characters. Let people. I also wasn't opposed. I was like, okay, not the majority of people have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? So maybe they don't even know who Darkseid is. He was taken out of the theatrical cut. I probably would say that there's still more people that have seen the theatrical cut than the Snyder cut, right? So that's why I was like, you could get away with it, but I prefer this. So Kevin Davis says, do you think James Gunn's going back to the MCU if David Elson were to take over? So obviously you're just saying like, okay, let's say Elson gives him the boot, right? Let's just say it's that. Because same thing, it could be the all opposite, right? Maybe Gunn doesn't like this guy. Maybe for X, Y, and Z, he's like, you know what? Don't want to work for Paramount. This is not what I signed up for. I don't want to do this. Thank you. Had a great time being DCU president, but I'm out of here. Would he go back to the MCU? I don't know. I think I would kind of like, who knows? I'm just kind of like imagine this, that James Gunn's getting some fat checks. I wonder if he could, because he even said like, hey, I thought some things about Kevin Feige, not in a negative way. He says they're friends, he respects all that stuff, but just like, I thought there was things I could do differently. And now that I've been in this role, I see what Kevin was doing. And now I understand why he did that. I wonder if you can go back to being the coach to quarterback, right? This is an example. People walk with me. If you're not a wrestling fan, people, I'm sure you've heard of Cody Rhodes. Before he went back to WWE, he started a new wrestling company called AEW. After he left, and he was a co-CEO or something like that, or EVP. And then when he left and went for WWE, it could just be talk. But he said, you know what? At that age, I wasn't ready to be EVP. I didn't want to be doing that at that age. There's too much. I just want to be a wrestler right now. And maybe get to that again when I'm retired. It could be that, where after he's left, he's like, you know what? I just want to fucking make movies, and that's it. Whether that's going to the MCU, whether that's doing his own thing, who knows? That's what I would actually like, because like, I don't love everything Gunn has done lately, but he has a style, and I think people like it. I would love it if he opened up his own production company and started just doing stuff like Super and Slither again. I really am curious at one point to hopefully see a original James Gunn project again, right? That's okay if we don't for a while, because he's doing the DCU thing, but when you go back to the MCU, I would say, Kevin, they'd be like 50-50. Because I think there's something where if they start to think about Guardian stuff, and let's say he's a free agent, they say, hey, we're going to maybe do this. You want to come back in the fold? And maybe he says yes. People might forget, before the whole tweets and firing, he was being kind of prepared to be the second in command with Kevin, because he was going to be a big, like, they were going to do a whole space saga and all that stuff in a space universe. Gunn was going to be like the runner of that, right? Obviously, Feige's still over him, but he was going to hand the keys to Gunn to a lot of stuff. And maybe that's it, where, hey, I can still be creative, but now I only got to do a pocket where I don't need to worry about Avengers. I don't need to worry about Wolverine or X-Men. I can get, let's say he says, Feige's like, hey, I'm giving you 20 characters. Worry about this. Go. Maybe. So, and he's always talked good about Kevin. He has more experience. So I don't know, James Gunn. Don't know. I don't think it's possible. So that's why Kevin, I think it's like a 50-50 if he'd go back. Because like I said, who knows? Maybe he doesn't want to do comic book stuff after that. Let's see. Hunter says, I see James Gunn DCU as 3 decided, and Zack Snyder, we obviously with Darkseid, and James Gunn is playing the long game. Okay, yeah, no, I agree with that. Kevin says, my only concern with David Elson buying WB is they're going to try and take politics out to please Trump administration. Families will go see Zootopia 2 and Wicked for good at the theaters in November. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a whole longer. What's my other topic here? Because I feel like we're going down some routes here. Yeah, I could. We don't need to talk about Fincher Star Wars. I'll kick that the next week because if I don't get to it, Fincher was supposedly directing a Star Wars movie. He won Final Cut, and the budget got too big, and they said, "Sorry, we can't do that." Lame. Yeah, why they do that? Budget's too big. The Final Cut thing scares them, but it just sucks that Dave Fincher could have directed Star Wars one. There's my quick thoughts. So, I think like. I agree with you as far as that is a worry, either taking up politics or it leans one way. But also we have content that leave many content, right? There's some content that leaves heavily to the left, heavily to the right. And I can see, and this is where I'm not saying they're right, because I like things that challenge people, right? The same reason why with Superman, I gave a lot of credit. Gunn is, I think, kind of botched speaking about it. But when they were doing that storyline of the 2 countries and the smaller one, the one being oppressed and the big one, like kind of overlording them and stuff, I was like, that's ballsy. The MCU does do some things like that, but just that was very current day stuff, right? And you could argue that someone might see that go, oh, take that out. Now, here's my counter argument though. I like that stuff, and I think it still should be in some stuff, but I think there's people on both sides, the left and the right. We've talked about this a few times, whether it's Daredevil or Mickey 17, that might just be done with politics in the sense of we hear it so much. It's in our face so much. It's in our social feeds. And I feel like now I always say this, in America, it was you guys with the Trump election the first time. And for us in Canada, it was COVID. I had never heard anyone's politics so much until COVID happened. Then it was like, everybody on your friend Facebook list, whether they are your dad's friend of the friend or someone you went to grade 2 with, if they are right or left because something's come up. And I'm even guilty, right? Because it's just like there was like a line drawn. And I think there's, for me, and I've said this before, where, I watch Eddington this year, but when a movie gets announced, and hopefully they're stopping, but when a movie in the last 5 years got announced of like, here's the plot line it ends with, and during COVID or during the pandemic, I go, I don't want to relive that. Eddington I watch because I like Ari Aster's work. But for me, it's like everything of the political stuff, awkward stuff with friends of, doing Christmas parties and being like, hey, I'm not vaccinated. Like, well, this guy's dad's sick. We can't have you here. Well, why? That's, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we just can't like that. Like, we don't feel comfortable because he didn't feel comfortable. Right. And I got to go with somebody that's trying to protect their dad's health, as shitty as that situation is. Right. We've all had those. So for me, I'm never wanting to relive the pandemic COVID times. I think that's a lot of political stuff where there could be the most left person in the world. Probably not. Right. But the most left person in the world. And they might sit down and be like, in Superman 2, I'd really just like him to fight an alien, I just would really like him to do nothing that is against us, like thinking about left or right or conservative or liberal. And I understand that. I don't have that yet because I think for me, I've always been political into that type of stuff. I think because my dad used to watch CNN and Fox News, and my dad's very left, but he would watch Fox News because he told me like, you always got to hear the both sides. I don't think he does now because in my opinion, and probably his, they've gone a little overboard, but back in the day, it's like, you can't have an educated opinion if you're not talking to the other side, right? Which also we've lost a lot of now. It's just, this is my side, this is my side. Great. We've all been guilty of that. I try nowadays to hear everyone out, almost everyone. But that's where now, and for me, I grew with my dad watching the Daily Show. I spent a lot of times in the States, a lot of time too when it was election years. So I would talk to people down there and you'd see stuff, you'd drive by, see the signs. So for me, that stuff never bugs me. I feel like I'm more politically charged than a lot of other people, even in the podcast sphere, were until maybe past couple years or whatnot. And that's because with age, you have to vote, right? But with COVID, that's not my bag. And that was a bad time for friends, politics, family. It sucked having kids during COVID and like all the stuff you get to do, like Halloween. 25% of them are doing it. Christmas, you can't go see your family. Like that was a shit time, right? And I think a lot of people look right now, and they're not wrong. All sides of the spectrum. This is a shit time. So there's pros and cons. I think to me, it's like it does it suck if it's like, hey, that's too political, take it out? Yes. But I think I'm more, if the only two routes are take out the political stuff or let's lean heavily one way, obviously a way that I don't prefer, then I go, okay, we'll just take it out. And I could see that pitch of, even if it's not like, oh, because it's offending me, just like, we don't want political stuff right now. And I think that's the bad thing when we talked about the Star Wars Ben Solo thing, right? They want stuff that people like Minecraft can just consume and move on to the next thing, right? And I agree with you. If that's a fear, you should be fearful. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of studios are going to do that, the big ones. So that's why support your Neon, support your A24. It's like, and even if you're not in that type of stuff, find the one you are, because I do think a lot of the big studios in the next 5 years, I think we're at a real risk of having, I think I've said this is the third time I said this week, so I apologize, but I think we're at a real risk for the big studios to be have nothing to say, just be super sloppy, especially if they start going to AI. Oh, so let's see. Kim Day says, I do believe Jeremy Allen White will get an Oscar nomination, possibly when I don't see Timothée Chalamet or Leo. I'll talk about it another time because we're not talking about that. We're going to have lots of Oscar coverage when we get closer. So, but there's your thoughts there. Sir Mike says, it's the meta talk about politics that's more annoying than politics and stories themselves. Everyone complaining about how things are woke because it features a woman or a person of color. Absolutely, right? Things have been politicized that aren't even that. People, I can't remember, with Alien Earth, right? When that came out and it was Kyle Chandler's daughter, and some people talking about, of course, there's a female lead, it's woke. It's like, what the fuck is it based off of? Like the first Alien, right? And it, like, to me, Alien Earth didn't have anything like that where it was woke. It's like, okay, so there's a woman lead and a supporting character that's a man of color. It's like, we had that all in the original Alien, right? And I think that's the other thing too. We've talked about this before. There's some people that are mentally sick, and some people that and you know what, Hunter and Kevin, you guys got past. I'm running out of time and I can't answer anymore because I don't think you guys are on Patreon and there's no super chat, so I got to end it there. Usually that's the rule of the show, some good conversation, but I got to end it there. The show gets too long. So if you want anything, you got to send in super chat or go join our Patreon, which is all down below. But that's the thing where people are either mentally sick or unstable that are just crazy on that stuff, right? It's woke, they're shoving it down my throat where you're like, okay, you're lost. Or it's people just doing trying to get clicks and, God, what's the term? It's not, I know rage bait is one, but they're just trying to get money off of those things, right? And that's the thing, Mike, where I agree with you. It's all that stuff. It's not just the politics, which I would say has obviously amped up in the amount of time with social media and everything. So it is larger than it is, but I agree with you that there is like a meta thing. Yeah, engagement farming. Yeah, it's a good S-bubs. I think there's another term that's like lost on me and stuff, but yeah, that's the thing where there's just so much of it and everything's political now, right? So that's why we try to have fun. We still talk about them because I don't want to be a show where I get it, but that's where for me, I agree with Kevin. I listen to podcasts where they get too political. Oh, well, we're going to stop it like too much. It's like that's just like, I don't know. I get it. You're there to talk about some shows and movies, and maybe that's why we're not big enough, right? Maybe it's just like that newscast we did last week where we talked too much about God and religion and have an opinion. But for me, it's grifting. There we go, grifting. Thank you very much, Super Mike. That's exactly what I was looking for. But for me, that turns me off when it's like, oh, well, let's not talk about that. It's like, well, I don't know. It's life, dude. And that's where for me, it's just like, obviously, GeekVerse, we need patrons. We need support. We could not have all these shows. It wouldn't be a thing, right? But that's where it's like, okay, I feel like you're just specifically now just doing this for money, because we did start this as a hobby, as a passion project, and it still is. But I mean, in the sense, like, that's why we never go, well, we can't talk about the Bible or something like that because we might lose some people. If we do, hey, that sucks. But we try to have like open conversations, right? Let's get to a few of these facts. We got 6 more minutes here. Let's see. The Arkham series. What was his exact quote here? The Arkham series is no longer going forward as it didn't work out. Didn't say much more. We kind of knew about that, and I'm not honestly even surprised because I just feel if you were doing the Arkham series, which again, the rumor was it was happening in the Matt Reeves verse and then it went over the Gunn verse, That didn't make sense to me. I very much wanted it in the Asylum, the Asylum in the Reeves verse. It feels like what the Clayface movie was, right? So that's disappointing. So it feels like he kind of killed it, which I get it. Give Reeves his trilogy, but if it's in the DCU, I feel like you need to establish more characters before you do that, right? Man of Tomorrow will feel different than Superman with the perspective of Lex Luthor being an emphasis. I'm fine with that. I've seen a lot of people not happy with this. Of Gunn's clearly more interested in Lex Luthor. He's more like he's more like Lex Luthor because he has these qualities, not like Superman. He's gonna use Superman as a side character. I don't have any of those issues with like that. I to me think it's an interesting tale where it's not a Elseworld. It's not a what if. It is, hey, we're in a universe and we're going to tell something from the villain's point of view. Let's see how it is. Granted, I have to see how they do this because I felt like they made Lex Luthor a big piece of shit in Superman. He's abusing women. He's doing stuff where he's killing that innocent guy. He's doing stuff where, for me, it's not. He wasn't trying to do like the Thanos, oh, he's a villain, but he's misunderstood, or he has a purpose and you can see his perspective. This was, no, this guy's an asshole and you should not bother yourself with trying to see the good in him, right? And I guess that's the point of Superman, right? That no matter what, he can see the good in people. I just think in a wrestling term, the babyface turn is happening way too early, in my opinion. If that's the case, we don't know that, right? So we have to see. Gunn has discussed Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves, but has not read a script. And then they also said this because they were talking about the New God stuff with Darkseid, and they're making a Mr. Miracle animated show for HBO Max. And same thing, he said that same quote where he's like, oh, I just haven't had time to read the script, right? And for me, it was funny. I said this in the GUA where it's like, yeah, he didn't have time to read the script because he was writing his own stuff, which I get it, but that is the tough thing of doing both those jobs, right? So it's like you're working on Suits of Man tomorrow and all this stuff, but with Constantine 2, I don't know. I'd like to see it. Think it'd be fun. I don't think it's happening. I think that's his way of just saying that right now, but he's not read a script, so maybe he reads it and it's great, right? Maybe there's a way to get in the DCU or be in Elseworld. Who knows? Same with Mr. Miracle. Who knows? But and the Waller series is still being written and gaining progress. Cool, great. So those were the updates that he gave. There's some other stuff like along the way that he has recently, but that was the DCU updates, and yeah, so we'll see. It's gonna be, man, next year. Between the content and the news and the trailers and then the real life stuff, it's going to be crazy as far as MCU trying to make a comeback, stars film in theaters, seeing how these non-James Gunn DCU projects work, seeing how Clayface and Supergirl perform while WB is being bought by somebody. All this stuff, it's pretty crazy to me that it's going to happen. Oh my goodness. Star Wars fan paid for a plane to fly over Disney Studios with a banner reading "Save the Ben Solo." Oh yeah, I would love something like that. Go back to our cast, talk about it with me and Taylor. But yeah, this just 2026 in general. It's going to be fascinating. Maybe not good fascinating. Like I just said to you before, a lot of big studios could be doing some things that we don't like, change some things. We're going to possibly get some content that is just very lukewarm, but I don't know. We'll see. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Check out the links down below again for everything you know. Patreon, the Extra Life stream. We're going to be doing 24 hours, BC Children's Hospital, trying to raise funds. Lots of fun stuff happening. Lots of events. Get your shirts now. Still there. I wore this for the special day because people were talking about my ego, so I had to wear my my Travis Told You shirt. But you know what? It's great. Love the screen. Nice and soft. But you can go up there, get our Superman, Jurassic Park, and Fantastic Four Extra Life themed shirts. You buy them, the proceeds go towards Extra Life. After November 9th, they're gone. They're gone forever. They're backlogged, hidden, never to be seen from again. But thank you very much for everyone in the chat. Thank you very much, everyone listen after the fact. I promise when you hear from next, it'll not be boring. I should be back. Let me just double check the calendar here. So next week, Monday, yeah, I'll be here. I think next week you're just going to get one Travis Told You because the Wednesday to the Friday I'm off. I'm doing Halloween prep, but I'm also going to be prepping some stuff for Extra Life, just videos, filming stuff, graphics. So if I have time, I might do one, but I'll just say as of right now, it's going to be one episode. Maybe if something breaks, I can do it on the Tuesday because the Wednesday to the Friday, I'm off on my day job. So that's where I can do a bunch of errands. So as of right now, I'll just say one, but lots of good stuff coming next week. Star Wars Visions, our Halloween cast. That's going to be lots of fun. After Nines this week, this Friday. And thank you very much again for tuning in.